Have you ever woken up feeling more tired than when you went to bed? Or noticed that little aches and pains are now turning into something more persistent? Maggie thought it was just aging, until she realized some of her daily discomforts were actually warning signs her body was sending out. In this article, we'll look at 5 health signs senior women over 70 should never ignore. Are you listening to your body's signals? Let's dive into what you need to watch out for. 1. Unexpected shortness of breath. Maggie had always considered herself an active woman, gardening in the mornings, walking through the neighborhood in the afternoons, and curling up with a good book in the evenings. She loved her routine. Exercise was simply a part of her life, and she felt good doing it. So when something started feeling off, she couldn't ignore it. One afternoon, Maggie walked up the stairs to her bedroom as usual, but suddenly she felt completely winded. Gasping for air, she leaned against the banister, wondering if she had somehow overdone it. Maybe I'm just getting old, she thought. But it wasn't just that one moment. It happened more and more frequently, walking across the room, carrying a light bag. Even when she wasn't doing anything remotely strenuous, she found herself getting winded after just small efforts. At first, she tried brushing it off. It's probably nothing, she thought, but after several days of feeling winded for no apparent reason, she made an appointment with her doctor. Maggie didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she knew something wasn't right. When the doctor explained that shortness of breath, especially after minimal effort, is something you shouldn't ignore, Maggie finally realized that her body was giving her a warning sign. The tests revealed that she had early-stage heart issues that were affecting her ability to breathe properly. While this news didn't feel great, Maggie was relieved to know that she wasn't imagining things. With the right treatment, Maggie noticed changes almost immediately. Her energy returned, her breathing felt easier, and she found herself climbing those stairs without even thinking about it. The once dreaded steps were no longer an obstacle, and the shortness of breath became a thing of the past. The big lesson? Shortness of breath isn't just part of aging. It could be your body's way of telling you something important, whether it's related to heart health, lung conditions, or even anemia. It's essential to listen to these signals. Maggie had learned the hard way that ignoring warning signs can lead to bigger issues down the road. 2. Constant fatigue. Maggie had always been a morning person. Well, at least she used to be. Lately, though, her mornings had started to feel like a battle. No matter how much sleep she got, she'd still wake up feeling like she hadn't slept a wink. The alarm clock went off, and she'd immediately groan, wishing for just 5 more minutes. But no matter how much she tried to snuggle back under the covers, the day had to begin. She'd drag herself out of bed, yawn, stretch, and shuffle to the kitchen for her first cup of coffee, only to find that after a couple of hours, she was still ready for a nap. At first, Maggie brushed it off. It's just part of getting older, she thought. Who wouldn't be tired after all these years? But as the days turned into weeks, it became more and more frustrating. Something was wrong, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. Every day, she felt like she was running on empty, struggling to get through even the simplest tasks. The fatigue wasn't just about being tired, it was about feeling completely drained, like her energy was constantly being drained, and there was nothing left to fill it back up. Her daughter noticed the change too. "Mom, you're always tired. It's like you have no energy anymore." Maggie tried to laugh it off, but deep down, she knew her daughter was right. Her usual daily routine, walking in the garden, reading her favorite books, chatting with friends, was starting to feel like an impossible task. That's when her daughter gently suggested she get checked out by a doctor. "You should really talk to your doctor about this fatigue. It's more than just aging, Mom." Maggie hesitated. Could this really be something serious? Maybe it was just stress, or maybe her age was finally catching up with her. But she decided to go for it. When her doctor ran some tests, she found out that low iron levels and a vitamin B12 deficiency were behind Maggie's chronic tiredness. Both were common culprits for seniors, but they were also easy to fix with simple dietary adjustments and supplements. Who knew that something as simple as missing vitamins could make such a huge difference? Once Maggie got on a treatment plan, things changed pretty quickly. Within a couple of weeks, she was waking up feeling refreshed. No more dragging herself out of bed or desperately reaching for that third cup of coffee by mid-morning. Her energy was back, and it wasn't just the physical energy. She felt mentally sharper too. Maggie could finally get back to doing the things she loved without feeling like she was walking through mud every step of the way. Now, Maggie has learned to never ignore persistent fatigue. It's not just a part of aging, and it's certainly not something she's willing to tolerate. After all, there's no time to be tired when there's a whole life to live, especially when that life includes a cup of tea with friends and a good book in hand. 3. Sudden unexplained weight loss. It wasn't just that Maggie's energy was slipping away, her weight was dropping too, and not in a way that felt intentional. For weeks, she'd been noticing that her clothes seemed to hang a little looser than they used to. At first, she shrugged it off. After all, she'd been getting older, and maybe it was just a natural part of aging. But then, as the days passed, she realized that her favorite pair of jeans were practically falling off without her needing to unbutton them. Might be time to buy a new wardrobe, she joked with her friend, trying to laugh it off. But as the pounds continued to melt away, Maggie couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She wasn't trying to lose weight. Far from it. In fact, her diet hadn't changed much at all. She still enjoyed her morning oatmeal and the occasional piece of chocolate cake with tea. But after a few weeks of consistently losing weight without even trying, Maggie grew concerned. Unexplained weight loss is one of those things that can be easy to ignore, especially when you're still feeling fine otherwise. But it's also a classic red flag. It can point to issues like thyroid imbalances, digestive problems, or even something more serious like cancer. Finally, Maggie decided it was time to see the doctor. She half expected the doctor to wave it off and tell her it was just part of getting older, but instead, after a thorough checkup, she was sent for some tests. The results revealed early signs of digestive issues, specifically malabsorption, which was preventing her body from properly absorbing the nutrients it needed. It turned out that her digestive system wasn't working as efficiently as it used to, which was leading to the weight loss. Maggie was relieved to find out that the weight loss wasn't tied to anything too serious, but still, it was an eye-opener. With some dietary adjustments and treatment, Maggie started feeling stronger within weeks. She began incorporating more fiber-rich foods, healthy fats, and protein into her meals. Her doctor also gave her a vitamin supplement regimen to help with the nutrient deficiencies she had unknowingly developed. The pounds slowly started to stabilize, and her energy began to return. Looking back, Maggie couldn't help but laugh at herself. She had been so focused on not gaining weight that she hadn't even noticed the sneaky weight loss happening right under her nose. The experience taught her to listen to her body and recognize that even the most seemingly harmless changes could be important signals of something deeper. 4. Memory problems and confusion. As if all this wasn't enough, Maggie began to notice something a bit unsettling. She was forgetting things more often. At first, it was just a few minor slip-ups, like forgetting where she put her glasses or the name of a new acquaintance. But then it started happening more frequently. A name, a phone number, even the simple errands she needed to do. The little things that used to come easily were suddenly slipping through her fingers like water. At first, Maggie shrugged it off. Oh, it's just stress, she thought. I've got a lot on my plate these days. Maybe I'm just a little distracted. But then the slip-ups started piling up. She found herself repeating stories to her friends, unaware she'd already told them the same tale earlier. She even forgot where she put her keys, a small but frustrating daily occurrence, and those little moments of confusion didn't stop there. But sometimes, Maggie would zone out mid-conversation, wondering why her words felt so hard to string together. She began to feel like she was losing herself. Is this just me getting older? Maggie wondered. Is this normal? After all, everyone says things like this happen with age, right? But the more she thought about it, the more she realized it wasn't just forgetfulness. It was starting to impact her quality of life. And that was a wake-up call. Instead of brushing it aside, Maggie decided to take action. She made an appointment with her doctor, who took her concerns seriously and recommended early cognitive testing. Now, Maggie wasn't looking for any more stress, but she knew something had to be done. And honestly, who likes the idea of losing their ability to remember their own grocery list? A few tests later, Maggie got her answer. Her memory lapses were linked to mild cognitive decline. Not something to ignore, but something that could be managed with early intervention. Maggie was relieved to finally have a name for the strange brain fog that had been clouding her thoughts. The best part? She was able to start treatment and brain exercises to slow the progression and give herself a better chance at maintaining her independence. With some tweaks to her routine, including mental exercises and physical activity to improve circulation, Maggie began to notice improvements. She wasn't perfect, of course. Sometimes she'd still forget where she left her keys. Hey, it happens. But overall, she felt more sharp and more present than she had in a long time. She was learning that early action, when it came to memory loss, was the best way to stay ahead of it. And the earlier you catch it, the more control you have. Now, Maggie's not the type to sit around waiting for things to go wrong. She's already staying ahead of the game and taking proactive steps to stay on top of her mental clarity. And she's feeling pretty great about it. Forgetting things still happen sometimes, don't we all? But taking control of her mental health has given Maggie more peace of mind. And isn't that worth a little bit of effort? 5. Swelling in legs and feet. Maggie had never paid much attention to her feet and legs until they started getting a little too comfortable in their puffiness. At first, it was just slight swelling in her feet after a long walk. Nothing too alarming. A little puffiness she could shake off with a few stretches and a cozy pair of slippers. But then, the puffiness started to spread. Her ankles began to feel tight, her calves were uncomfortable, and by the end of the day, it felt like her legs had become balloons filled with too much air. At first she brushed it off. After all, we all have a little swelling now and then, right? But when the tightness became constant, Maggie started wondering if it was something more serious. After all, she couldn't just blame it on age and chalk it up to getting older. So she went to her doctor, who explained that swelling in the legs and feet could be a sign of a range of issues, from circulatory problems to kidney disease, or even chronic venous insufficiency. Maggie's doctor discovered that her circulation wasn't functioning as well as it should, and she had early signs of circulatory issues that needed attention. Maggie wasn't expecting to hear that. But here's the good news. Maggie wasn't stuck with swollen feet forever. Her doctor gave her a few simple tips to get things back on track. First, she started incorporating more leg exercises into her daily routine. Things like gentle stretches, calf raises, and ankle rotations. She also made sure to take more frequent breaks from sitting, getting up every 30 minutes to walk around or stretch. And yes, she got a bit quirky with it. She would even stand up during her favorite TV shows and march in place like she was walking the red carpet. Who knew she could have a mini workout session while binge-watching her favorite shows? The results? Well, Maggie's legs started feeling lighter, and her swelling began to decrease. She didn't feel like she was carrying around 2 heavy water balloons by the end of the day anymore. And even better, she noticed that the constant discomfort that had made her feel sluggish was gone. It was like a weight had been lifted, literally. Maggie learned that small changes in daily habits can make a huge difference when it comes to keeping our circulation healthy. So don't ignore that tightness in your legs. It could be your body trying to tell you something. A little movement, a few breaks, and some thoughtful care can go a long way in improving circulation and keeping you feeling more energized. Maggie's experience taught her that our bodies are constantly communicating with us. It's easy to dismiss small changes as just a normal part of getting older, but many times these small signs can be indicators of something bigger that needs attention. By paying attention to her body and listening to the signals, Maggie was able to make changes that improve her health and well-being. You don't have to wait until things get worse. Take action now before small problems become bigger ones. After all, it's never too late to start paying attention and taking charge of your health. What signs are you paying attention to in your own health? Have you experienced any of these? Let's talk about how we can all stay in tune with our bodies and improve our quality of life. Share your thoughts below, and let's take control of our health together.